Hello? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good? Good? Okay, all good?
Right there, probably.
Do a quick mic check. And we're waiting for one, right? Oh, you were good?
We're good. No, we're good. We're all good.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys are good to go. Out of curiosity, where's everybody from?
NWYPR. Emily Hofstadter.
Nice to meet you. Are you really another Emily?
I am.
Okay, so only if you're Emily can you go into political reporting. Got it.
I'm Adam.
Hey, nice to meet you, Adam. I think we've met before, but so. Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
Paul from Channel 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. I think you guys know. Good to see everybody. I just want to make sure our mic checks are fine. I'll get the group and we'll start in just a minute. And we're not waiting for. I thought somebody was going to a car.
We're all good. They're back.
Great, great.
Make sure you get close. Come on.
Cluster in, guys. People with the signs want to get in the front? There we go.
I'm shorty, so I'm just going to get in between you guys over here.
Why don't you two switch? Why don't you go next to my dad? Yep. Because you might speak.
Here.
Perfect.
Yes.
You guys good?
Yep.
Are you guys cold?
No. I'm not.
We aren't, are we?
No, we're not.
Good morning, everyone. About 50 years ago, Baltimore City had a mayor named William Donald Schaefer. He didn't win his first race. He didn't win his second race. He ran until he won. And then when he got in office, he fixed a little bit of everything. From potholes to the inner harbor, he understood what mattered to make a city special, to make it feel like it was meant for everyone. We haven't had that kind of leadership in Baltimore in a very long time. My name is Thiru Vignarajah, and I am running for mayor of the greatest city in America. I truly do not know of another city in this country where there is a greater distance between where we are and where we could be. And all we need to unleash that promise, unleash that potential, is real leadership. You have to remember where we stand. We stand in a city that at the beginning of the Republic had the westernmost deepwater port in this country. The second westernmost deepwater port was Hudson Harbor in New York City. And for the first 100 years of the Republic, there was a fight between Baltimore City and New York City as they competed for commerce from Europe. And you got to give leaders in New York City credit. They conceived of and constructed the second greatest infrastructure project in American history. They built the Erie Canal. With shovels and spades, they dug a 1,000-mile ditch from the Hudson Harbor to the Great Lakes. And all of a sudden, you could get from London or Madrid to New York to Chicago without ever getting off your boat. It was a huge advantage. And New York City surged ahead in this fight with Baltimore. Well, you got to give our leaders credit, because in response to the Erie Canal, they conceived of and constructed the greatest infrastructure project in American history. They built the B&O Railroad. From Baltimore to Ohio, you could go faster and cheaper than you could go by sea. And for the second 100 years of this republic, New York City and Baltimore competed to be the great city in America. Until the late 1950s, Baltimore was the second largest city on the eastern seaboard, the fifth largest city in America. Well, that promise was unleashed because we had leaders that thought beyond what was best for them. The man who laid the first cornerstone for the B&O Railroad, he knew he wouldn't be there to see the railroad built. He knew that he would never ride a train on that railroad, but he built it anyway. He made those investments anyway, because he was investing not in himself, but in a city and in people that were generations to come. That is where I believe we stand today, because the crises of today are holding us back, but we also have opportunities. 4 years ago, the current mayor was given a once-in-a-generation gift, $641 million to spend any way you want. And here we are 4 years later, not sure of where any of that money went. Well, we now stand here today as this city debates what to do with Harbor Place. This is a once-in-a-century choice about what to do with our most precious public space. And right now, the plan is to give it away for a dime on the dollar to developers and donors. The truth is that I've loved running. I get joy out of it. I like people. I like hearing their stories. I like talking to them about what they think this city needs. I'm a nerd. I love problems. I like thinking about and talking about and coming up with real solutions for how we solve these fundamental problems. And I am an optimist, maybe even an idealist, who believes not just that our best days are ahead, but that the way we get them is through plans and strategies and solutions, not the politics as usual that we have inherited. Because if we want to unleash the great potential in this city, we cannot be stuck in a choice between going backwards and a person who's in over his head. I've talked to plenty of folks about the current mayoral race, and they tell me I'm going to vote for that choice because the other one's not an option. And other people tell me, oh, no, I'm going to vote for that choice because the other one's not an option. And when I ask them why, when I talk to them, I say, talk me through why you think that's a good solution for what is needed here in Baltimore. They're very honest. They say, look, there's a great debate that is unfolding in this city, in churches, at coffee houses, at dinner tables. It's this values debate between corruption and incompetence. And there are some people who genuinely believe that corruption is the worst thing in the world, that corruption is worse than incompetence. And so they choose to go with the current mayor because they can't stand the idea of putting in office someone who was convicted of embezzlement. And there are other people who say, no, incompetence is the worst thing. Incompetence is even worse than corruption. And so they're going to vote for the former mayor because they can't see any more of the dysfunction and ineptitude that they have seen in City Hall. It's a debate on the basis of values among people of good faith. They love this city. They want what's best for this city. But that is not a debate that is worthy of this city. We can be so much more. Now, I've reflected for months. There are a lot of folks here today that have been pushing me, encouraging me, insisting that I run. They say, look, Thiru, you're going to have fun. Isn't that good enough? Your dad's going to have fun. Your mom's going to have fun. They love being out there talking to people. Just do it. And the truth is that because I do enjoy running so much, a stiff breeze might have been enough to push me in. But I was as thoughtful as I could be. I was as deliberate as I could be because you knew that the temptation was real to do something that brings you joy, that gives you a chance to inject some hope into the city. It would have been easy to just jump in for sport. Let me be clear. I waited because I was hoping to see something from these candidates, something from another option that would renew my faith that our better days were ahead. That something has not materialized. I thought maybe our current mayor would grow into the William Donald Schaefer that we so desperately need. I thought our former mayor might be inspired by someone she worked with and see the need for someone who put the city ahead of herself. I haven't seen it. You don't see it in their donors and donations. You don't see it in their policies and plans. You don't see it in how they conduct themselves. And I still waited because I wanted to see if there was a path for us to move forward. And let's be clear. I've run races where I was a rookie, and I've run good races that I was proud of. But if we're going to win, we have to acknowledge that we didn't do things perfectly in the past. And we're going to change some things up. First, we're going to build the biggest grassroots organization that this city has ever seen. People 2 years ago, didn't know who I was. So we focused on the air game. We went to every debate. We did every interview. We blasted commercials on billboards and TV stations. And we'll do a lot of that again. But I needed to get out to everyone with at least knowing how to pronounce my name. Well, we've made some progress. Sometimes they just shout out a syllable or two. But people have gotten a sense of who I am and what I'm about. So this time we are going to build the ground game, a grassroots organization the likes of which this city has never seen. 1,000 block captains. And those block captains in every neighborhood, in every community, from west to east, from north to south, are going to be built on the spine and the skeleton of all the folks that we have touched. Because I'm really proud of perhaps what has been most hard about these last couple of years. It's no fun losing. It's no fun being told by the people you love, being told by the city you love, that they've decided to go with someone else. It stings. And part of what is hard about being a leader is even in those moments, you have to dust yourself off and you have to come back and you have to find a way to fight. A few years ago, it was Miss Vanessa. I don't know if she even remembers. I had written a piece in the Wall Street Journal about how cities should cut property taxes. Campaign was over. I was reflecting on what I thought cities needed to do in the midst of COVID. And I sent that Wall Street Journal op-ed to everybody on my email list. And this little woman emailed me back. And she said, "Hi, I'm Miss Vanessa, and I need your help because I couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, I'm losing my house in a tax sale. It's the house I inherited from my family, from my parents. They bought it when I was a baby. We've paid taxes on it for 50 years. But my husband, who was a pastor, passed away a couple years ago. And in the middle of COVID, we fell behind on payments. And now I've lost my family home in a tax sale." Ms. Vanessa, I didn't really want to do anything. I was in a bad place. I felt for you, but I called you. And I heard your story, and I said, let's do something about this. And we made some noise, and we shared your story, and we saved your home. And after Miss Vanessa, there was another woman who lost her house in a tax sale. And then there was another family who lost their house in a tax sale. And there was another man this past Christmas. And there was another woman and her son who the Washington Post wrote about. But each and every time, we found a way to save their house. And we touched a handful of people. A few years ago, I met Miss Anita and the Reynolds. They lost loved ones to gun violence. Some of them are stories that you heard. Some of them are stories that you didn't. I was appointed a special prosecutor to prosecute the person who killed Miss Anita's son. I served as the family spokesperson and lawyer for the Reynolds family and so many others in cases that were fraught with politics and questions of race, questions that were complicated and costly. But that wasn't really my calculus, because it was a chance for me to do some good. And when you're on the sidelines and you're trying to dust yourself off and you're watching your team just get creamed on the field, when the coach says, go in and run a few plays, it is a blessing. It's a source of nourishment for the soul. And then months ago, a couple friends called me about what I thought was the most ridiculous controversy in all of Baltimore. They were telling me that they were mad that BG&E was putting this octopus equipment outside of their beautiful homes. And you guys remember, I was like, I'm sorry. I got real fights to fight. I got Miss Vanessa, who's about to lose her house. I've got families that are mourning the loss of their loved ones. I'm sorry, I gotta sit this one out. That's what I said.
God, he didn't.
I know.
And they kept knocking on my door, and they kept asking me, and they thought this argument that people are paying a lot of attention would get my attention. And I said, guys, there's a fight every day in the news. You guys cover the news every day. We got to be thoughtful about where we devote our attention. And then one day they called me and they said they've crossed a line because they're not just forcing us to get this ridiculous equipment that turns out to be dangerous on the front of our beautiful homes. They're shutting off people's gas when we say no. And they're doing it in communities all across Baltimore. It actually turns out they weren't doing it in communities all across Baltimore. They didn't do it in Bolton Hill. They didn't do it on the precious, most beautiful streets of Union Square. But over on North Smallwood, where Miss Adrian lived, they made every one of them get one of these pieces of equipment. One fight after another, I picked up the calls and I did what I could. And one fight after another, no matter the cost, no matter the consequences, no matter the odds, because I think in virtually every one of them, they said we couldn't win, that the odds were stacked against us, that we couldn't get Miss Vanessa's house back, that we wouldn't get a conviction in this case or that case, that we certainly couldn't defeat the Goliath of BG&E. But I didn't just have a slingshot. And I don't think I appreciated at the time what we had. Because along with my slingshot, we had an army of people with slingshots. This army of people that were desperate to see something different in this city. And so when we build this grassroots organization, this 1,000 block captains, it's not going to be through press conferences. It's going to be built on the spine and the skeleton of all of the hundreds of people that we have touched. The streets and the neighborhoods we have made a little bit better. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to break this vicious cycle of money in politics. I've been a victim of it. I have had to rely on the systems we had in place, and as an outsider knowing you need to raise a lot of money, we raised a lot of money the old-fashioned way. You called wealthy people with means and you asked them to believe in you and believe in your ideas and believe in this city. And we convinced a lot of people to write big checks. And as much as I was convinced that I knew who I was, what positions we would take, that we would not buckle or bend under the pressure that they now, no doubt, would impose, what I didn't realize is what they would think. That they would still have expectations, that they would still have a faith, a belief that Thiru was just another politician, that we'd pull the strings and he would dance. Well, they were wrong then, and they are certainly wrong now. And you don't have to take my word for it. The positions we have taken, the fights we have picked, are the ones that no other politician in this city would pick or fight. I remember when BG&E was a lost cause. Some of the most influential community leaders in Baltimore couldn't get a call back. I remember when tax sales were a given. Nobody was willing to challenge the law firms or the hedge funds that profit off this system across the country. Well, now they know that their donations don't buy them bad policies. Their donations don't buy them compromises that cost the people of Baltimore. But for the first time in Baltimore history, we can do even better. Because we are going to make history by being the first mayoral campaign that is going to use public financing to raise the war chest we need. It's never been here before. I love public financing. I love the idea of being able to go and say, even $25 is a huge contribution in this race. you can't give more than $150. So save your $6,000 checks for someone who you think you can buy, because all I need you to do is buy me dinner. Because if you do that, we can slowly but surely build up the resources to take on people that are wedded to the old system, that believe that the pay-to-play culture is the only system that this city has ever known and will ever know. I hated raising money. I hated it. It was the worst part of campaigning. But the idea of going around and asking people to make a small contribution to show their faith in this campaign, in this city, it's going to be a joy. We're going to do it every day. These guys are going to do it every day. And we're going to raise the resources we need. And it is going to liberate City Hall for the first time to do what is best for the people and not what is best for donors and developers. The other thing that we're going to do is we're not going to be defined by the media or by my opponents. I'm sick of it. I'm a former federal and city prosecutor, and crime is a defining crisis in this city. But it is not the only crisis. And for every one of your outlets and every one of your reporters that decide to write only about crime, that's your prerogative. But I'm not going to only talk about crime. Sheer coincidence, 4 years ago, January 24th, 2020, is when we filed our formal declaration in the mayor's race 4 years ago. You'll know this is true because I made a typo in the press release, because I used the old template and it still says 2020. Well, go back and look at that press release from January 24th, 2020. We were talking about making Baltimore City the most friendly city to the LGBTQ community in the country. We were talking about the justice we had brought to people that had irrational and incorrect water bills. We were talking about all sorts of challenges that this city faced. And then go look at the coverage. They talked about crime. Well, we're going to do it better this time. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to convince all of you to write about property taxes and free college and climate change and free buses and Harbor Place. But we're going to make it clear that the signature issues for which we are waging this war will no doubt be about crime and corruption. They are the twin evils that have plagued this city for a generation. But our schools are broken. Our city hall procurement system is broken. Our water bill system is broken. And a mayor's got to fix those things too. I'll give you 3 to put on your screens. Every kid who goes to a public high school in Baltimore City is going to be guaranteed free college at any institution in the state of Maryland. Community colleges, trade schools, private universities, or public schools. You go to Dunbar or Douglas, Edmondson or Western, and we will make sure that finances is not an impediment to you getting a higher education. I'm the son of 2 math teachers. So when you ask me the question, how are you going to pay for that? I promise you, we've already done the math. It's actually in our education plan from 4 years ago. But I'm going to talk about it at every press conference where I'm given a chance. Because for $10,000 a kid, which is the weighted average of how much it'll cost, because Hopkins and private universities already allow kids from public high schools in Baltimore, if they get in, to go for free. In-state tuition at Morgan State, at UMBC, at College Park is incredibly affordable for graduates of Maryland public schools. Community colleges and trade schools are worth their weight in gold for how little they cost. But it turns out it's about $10,000 a kid. And the tragedy is that we don't send that many kids to college from our public schools. So we did the math. It's about 1,000 kids a year at $10,000 a pop. It's $10 million. It's going to be $10 million for my mom or dad to have been told their kids that they can get a free college education if they go to Douglas, where my dad taught, or Edmondson, where he started, or Poly, where my mom taught. To be able to say that, not just to the families that are in our school system, but the families that are about to leave, to be able to say to the country that Baltimore is going to become the first city in America to guarantee free college for every graduate of a Baltimore City public school, that's worth a lot more than $10 million. And by the way, $10 million sounds like a lot. One of your reporters shared with us, I think it was yesterday, that we spent $66 million on police overtime because of insufficient oversight. For a fraction of police overtime, to make a pledge to every one of our high school kids that they can get a free college education in the state of Maryland, those are the kinds of things that we're going to fight for. What we have proposed with Harbor Place will not happen if I am mayor. We need a community-led design, not a developer-driven, profit-focused plan to build up luxury condos and apartments in the most precious public space in Baltimore. I won't stand for it, and if we have to start from scratch, that is what we will do. I like talking about this stuff. It feels good to be back here again. And I think you know how I run. My father, when he first got here, he was not as eloquent as my mother. My mother grew up on the right side of the tracks. She was from a very fancy family, and she had a little bit of a British accent. And even though she was raised on the other side of the world, they were comfortable with her teaching at Poly and then later at Morgan State. But my dad, he still has a little accent. And when he interviewed at Edmondson High School with the principal, it's the principal who told me this story. They said to him, are you sure you can do this? Because this isn't like the schools in your country. The kids don't wear suits to school every day. They don't stand up when you walk into class. They're not going to call you Mr. Vignarajah. In fact, some of them are going to pretend they don't understand what's coming out of your mouth even when they do. They're going to be rude. They're going to curse at you. Are you sure you can do this? Are you sure you want to do this? And he answered with 3 words that became one of the mantras of our family. He said, let me try. Let me try. Let me try. If I can't do it, you can fire me. But let me try. And the principal thought that was a pretty good answer. And so they let him try. In 1980, he started teaching at Edmondson High School. And a few years later, he started teaching at Frederick Douglass High School. And a few years after that, he started teaching at Southern High School. And he was at Southern before and after it became Digital Harbor High School. And a few years after that, he started teaching at Western High School, in the sister school to Poly, which is where my mom came and taught in 1970. And a few years after that, thanks to some grandkids, my father finally agreed to retire. The man who said, let me try, retired as the oldest teacher teaching in the state of Maryland. He was 80 years old. He's 87 now. He doesn't look 87. He doesn't act 87. He doesn't like me telling people he's 87. But I share that story because that's the tradition in which I was raised. A tradition of grit and hard work, of faith and public service. That is how I'm going to run. That is how I'm going to govern. That is how we're going to win. And that is how we're going to reclaim this great city. Thank you so much for being here. and I look forward to seeing you guys every day on the trail. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned, very frankly a few times that you have run for office a bunch of times. You enjoy it. But why should voters trust that you want this particular office, mayor, and that you can do it when your competitors have years and years and years of experience?
Look, I got years and years of experience too. I just don't have it working in a broken system and being part of the problem. I have years of experience too, but it's prosecuting crimes, not committing or covering them up. I have years of experience in leadership, in fighting crime, in organizing, in coming up with solutions to big problems. But that wasn't the only question you asked. You asked another question, which I think is a really important one. People who run for office run for office. Sometimes they run for different offices. Brandon Scott ran for council and then council president and then lieutenant governor and then mayor. I believe he cares deeply about public service, and I believe he cares deeply about Baltimore. I want to be crystal clear. There have been 2 presidents of the Harvard Law Review that have ever run for office. 2 in like 200 years. One was Barack Obama, and the other one is me. There are plenty of people that say to me, "What are you doing in Baltimore? Go down and join the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. Go run for Attorney General. Aren't your pedigree put you in a place to do things on a bigger scale?" My sister was Michelle Obama's policy director and worked for Secretary Clinton. I know what is out there. I know the problems that we face, but I don't think there are bigger challenges than the ones that sit here in Baltimore. I think Congress is a hot mess. I have no interest in being governor of a prosperous state. I want to be the mayor of a city that desperately needs its help. I have run for citywide office. I think there's a handful of positions in government where you can make the kind of dramatic changes at the pace that this city needs. I don't think you can do it in Congress. I don't think the Attorney General can do it. I did think the state's attorney could do it. I think the police commissioner can do it. I think the superintendent of schools can do it. And I think more than anyone, the mayor can do it. You come back to me with this recording if I ever run for lieutenant governor. You come back to me with this recording if I ever run for attorney general or governor. Come back to me. I better have a very good reason for why I am doing something that is different than what feels in my heart of hearts, in my soul, like my calling. Sometimes it's hard. There are tough days on the campaign trail. There are long days. You face tough attacks. It's what we sign up for. But the only thing that makes it worth it is the promise of fixing this great city, not for myself, not even really for my dad, though I think and I hope it'll make him proud, but for all of these people. Because if you really want to know why I'm running, talk to the people that we have helped. They know me best. They know me when the cameras are off. They know me in 10 o'clock p.m. conference calls, and they know me in quiet spaces when it looks like we might lose. They know me when I am worried about an argument that the other side is going to make, and when I am supremely confident that we're going to win. I don't get their hopes up if I think we're in a tough spot. I tell them the truth if we're in a tricky position, but I also tell them when things can be fixed. I told you we were going to win BG&E, didn't I?
We told you too.
Every other lawyer they spoke to said, you can't win this case. There were lawyers that said they wouldn't sign on to the case because of the arguments that we were making. Every politician we talked to said, don't waste your time. But they have renewed my faith in what is possible. And I hope the people of Baltimore understand that I love running, but I love running for Baltimore. And that's all I want to do. Look, respectfully, with my opponents, I am struck by how little they've raised. You know, for the former mayor, with all these $6,000 donors, I know those folks. With all of those big dollar donors, to only have $370,000 in her war chest, for the incumbent mayor, after 4 years, to have less money than we did 4 years ago in exactly this reporting period, let's just say those numbers didn't deter me. I think this is $1 million race. But I think we're going to be able to raise exactly what we need to get our message out. And be clear, the good news is that while we do that, because we're raising funds from small donors in small clumps from citizens and residents of this city, we're also building out that grassroots organization that I was talking about. So for the first time in Baltimore history, a candidate is free to both build the ground game and the air resources at the same time. But I think we're going to raise as much as we need, but this is $1 million race. Absolutely. And the good news, again, is all the cameras are on. And Emily, I'm very confident. All of you are really called Emily? Emily O, I am very confident you will come back to me and say what happened if we don't hit that mark. And I'll tell you right now, and I'll say it on camera, I think we're going to do a lot better than that. I told folks here that we're going to have an event where I'm going to ask for them to share all of their stories. This is a cold, Wednesday morning. Saturday or Sunday, we're going to assemble the army. But if folks feel like they want to share and they've been out here in the cold for a minute, these are people I love, and whether they like it or not, whether they admit it or not, they love me too. And I want to just give them a chance, if they want to speak, to share their thoughts. Anybody?
I will. I see this as a tremendous opportunity for this city. I've lived here for decades, and I was here with William Donald Schaefer, and before Thiru referred to him, to me, he is the new William Donald Schaefer. I've seen what he's done around the city and he is the most authentic individual I know. He is a man of his word. He is a man of all the people, not just a few people, not Federal Hill, not just Bolton Hill. I've gone with him to West Baltimore. He helps everyone around here. Look at who's here. Don't look below that. What he says is who he is. Compassion, integrity, and he's brilliant. I'm pleased he wants to run for our city. So let's make it happen. Let's, like his dad, let's give him a chance. It hasn't worked here for decades. This is our crisis is our opportunity.
Oh, apparently these people put on their fancy coats to talk. Okay, all right.
Well, I just want to say, there used to be a saying that said, good men don't make good politicians, and good politicians don't make good men. Well, this man is a good politician and a good man. He has integrity. And as just said, he speaks for everyone, not just the 1%ers. He speaks for everyone, everyone. And you can't ask for a better candidate than that. I'm excited, and I'm glad to have known him and that I know him and that he loves me.
I love you, Miss Vanessa.
I met Thiru several years ago. I never thought that he'd be getting me out of jail. Actually, never thought I'd be going to jail, much less for standing up for what was legal and what has been confirmed as what should have been the right thing, which was putting the public interest and safety first. That's what this man does. He takes care of problems that others won't touch. Not only are we lucky that he wants to jump into this race, but we need to let him try. We need to let him try for Baltimore, because we've seen him, many of us here and others through your cameras, we've seen him take on fights that no one wanted to touch, that they were running away from, actually, and that were in the public interest to take on, and that had no upside. He's willing to take the risk to do the right thing. Let him try.
I really, really, really appreciate him. He didn't have to come to me. I didn't have to come to him. But we got the situation solved. And he did an awesome job. So he's an awesome person. A lot of people don't know him. A lot of people do know him. Okay? But it's all good. He's a good man. And it's forever too. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, of course.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Williams, and I'm here today to support Mr. Thiru because two words come to mind to me when I look at all the things we've experienced here in Baltimore City, and that's insanity and change. The definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing that you've traditionally done and expect change. Well, Baltimore, it's time to really create real change in our city, and that starts with change in the administration. So I'm asking each of you to give this gentleman an opportunity. I'm impressed with him. I don't know him personally, but this morning when I heard that he was joining the fight to be our mayor, I got up and I actually called him because I just wanted to verify that. I was contemplating running myself to put another candidate in this fight because to me the two leading choices we had was not an option. And I'm clear that I probably would have stayed home. So I am asking each of you to please, this year, if you want to see change, you can bring about this change. No one person is going to change all the issues that we have in Baltimore, but collectively, we can make that happen. But we need a leader that's going to lead us. We need someone who's educated, who's committed, and who's determined to bring about that change. And I believe that Mr. Thiru is that man.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rebecca Reynolds, and on July 7th, 2022, my brother Timothy Reynolds was killed. And we had a uphill battle to climb to get justice for him. And I remember my first conversation with Thiru. He said, Becky, you have to trust me. And I said, I don't trust anybody. You got to earn it. And he's been earning it ever since. If it was not for him, we would not have gotten the justice that we did. He put up with all my questions. He put up with me questioning him. And I did not go to Harvard. He is an amazing man, and he deserves a chance. I was born and raised in this city. My brother was born and raised in this city. My family was born and raised in this city. We love this city, and Thiru loves this city. And we need to get behind him and support him, just like he has supported all of these citizens here and those who aren't here, and things that he does behind the scenes that the camera doesn't see. Those 10 o'clock phone calls, those, I've called him crying, I can't do this, and he has, yes, you can. He is an amazing person, and this city is begging for change, and the citizens deserve it. The citizens that live here, that have lived here their entire lives, deserve to have someone like Thiru leading this city to a new place, better place for everyone to live. So vote for Thiru. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz Bement. I've been a Thiru supporter since I first heard him speak in 2020. One thing I know is that we have not had one mayor in recent history that is up to the task. They are inept or corrupt or ended up in jail. And I know with all my heart that he has the wherewithal, the understanding, the vision, and he will be able to turn this city around. And that is exactly what we need. And I think that we need, again, to give him a chance. He is up to the task. He can do the job. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm a longtime resident of Baltimore City, and I know Thiru personally. He's a man of integrity and character. He's a true leader, and I can't emphasize that enough. That's what we need in this city, and we need Thiru to be the visionary that leads us forward. Please, everyone, we need your vote.
All right, I think we're done. And soon my dad's going to get up here, and then it's going to get ugly. We should just... Look, I said this off the cuff during an earlier interview, and it sort of stuck with me. I know you want me to go away. Just fix it. Just fix the problems, and I'll go away. But if you're not going to fix it, be clear. I'm going to run until we win. I'm going to run until the change that this city needs is the reality of Baltimore. We have 4 months. It's going to be a sprint. But a race like this is a marathon and a sprint. I'm going to need all of you to pace yourselves, to understand that there's going to be a lot of work to do. But just as we did in the context of a tax sale or a prosecution or the BG&E case, we got to have a little faith. We need a strategy, and we need hard work. And with that, I think everything is possible. Those of you who were there 4 years ago know that the inscription on our campaign office was one of my favorite quotes. It's from Nelson Mandela. He said, "They will say it is impossible until it is done." And for all of you who are out there wondering whether this is possible, be skeptics, be cynics for as long as you want. But there will come a time when this is finally done. Thank you guys so much.
I want to say one word.
Okay.
I am not going to make a big speech. One thing I tell about my son, he is a man of determination. Why? From high school, he came to me one day and said, "I'm going to Harvard." "How can you go to Harvard? I have no money for $45,000 to pay you." "Don't worry, I'll get scholarship." And he won, and he did. Thanks.
Sorry, I did have one
Of course.
question. In your last campaign, there were some allegations that came out about workplace abuse and harassment. What do you have to say about those, especially for people who might still be thinking about that?
Yeah, look. There's gonna. I think it's important to be clear. Politics is rough business, and there are things that have been said about me that are unfair. There are things that have been said about me that are fair. And what I will say, and what I will be as clear as I can about, is I am not perfect. I have made mistakes. I have learned from those mistakes. I have grown as a person, as a manager, as a leader, as a human. I think we all do. And all I can tell you is that the things that I have done that I regret in my past, I have done my best to be better and to do better and to grow. I am not perfect. None of us are. Sheila's not perfect. Brandon's not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I am the perfect person for this job. Thank you, guys.
All right.
get back to
You
work.
need a jacket.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Luxury cable.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Do you have a campaign manager? Who do I talk to for campaign related questions?
For me, for now, just call me.
Okay, the office or how's this the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Sorry to
No,
throw.
I've always done this. Even big teams, small teams, I just call me.
Awesome, amazing. Okay.